What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do you go? DJLittleRock.com. Let me say that one more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me at your next event. I like to party with the people. Yes, the people need to be entertained. They need to break out and go and have some fun. All right, today on the program, Catherine Habbie. Who's Catherine Habbie? Well, you're going to find out in the next few minutes, so stick around. This week's shows, yay! I have a show this week. This is the part of the program where I tell you about the public shows and the private shows that I'm doing. This week's shows, I'm at the RAB in Conway, Arkansas. Yes, the RAB has opened up to limited capacity, and yes, there will be rules. And please, 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 if you feel sick, stay home. Please stay home. Certainly we want to be vigilant as we ride through this novel COVID-19 coronavirus. And the scientists, I know that they're out there. They're out there trying to find the cure or at least a good treatment so we don't have to be so afraid of these little tiny bug that's out there. It's not going to get us all. I believe that we're going to be fine. I believe that we will prevail. But yes, great news. The Video Dance Party Karaoke Jam is going on at the RAB in Conway, Arkansas. They got pool tables, shuffleboard, darts. They got a giant Jenga game, checkers. Yes, come on out. And there's foosball too, so come on out. We're going to keep 6 feet away from each other and make sure that I'll sanitize the equipment before, during, and after the show. So yes, we will remain vigilant in this time, and we'll go to the RAB and party on. All right, without further ado, that's enough of my rambling. Let's talk to Catherine Habbie. Now, she's teaching me something new. I've been using some Skype. I mean, I've done a lot of audio podcast, and then I started doing the Skype podcast, and she has just taught me that Zoom might be the way to go. So I'm learning about Zoom. So let's Zoom Catherine Habbie now. We will figure this out. Catherine Habbie.
Hi.
No doubt.
Is it better now?
You sound like you're in
better now?
But I can hear you. All right. Give the people.
We got oceans between us.
No worries. It's probably on my side, but I have the ability to fix the audio a little bit. So Catherine Habbie, once again, I know for the first time people are listening to this, but I'm going to say once again, because we did have technical difficulties using these Zoom devices. This is the first time that I'm conducting a meeting Zoom on the What Makes You Famous podcast. So Catherine Habbie, tell the people who you are.
All right. As I said before, I've always been a teacher. And when I moved to UK, I started writing about my experiences here as a substitute teacher. And then that turned out into a book. And then I decided to publish the fairy tales, which I've been, writing for my family. And then I guess I didn't stop after that. There were lots of books for babies, which I've started writing. And then I've written the Triptych trilogy, which was based on some of the stuff I observed in the British Museum here. And I kind of, melded it all together and produced what is up for everyone to see. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, very good. Yes. Go once again. Say.
Well, during lockdown, I also started a new set of spiritual books, to help out with my church, with the catechism and students there. And they're up on the church website. And there are a new series of books as well for that. Yeah.
I like that. All right. So, okay, we'll discuss the lockdown a little bit since you did bring it up a little bit. As we record this in May of 2020, we're currently in a coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19. So the creative people, such as yourself, are stuck indoors for the most part and not able to go off and do things out into the world. So you have to find new ways to be creative. And Catherine Habbie, you have found new ways to be creative by making books on more subjects. Now you've chosen to go into the spiritual. Now, what kind of spiritual are we talking about?
Well, they're basically prayer books because I am also a catechist. I mean, I teach the students in the church in weekends. So, because of lockdown, they could not complete the course. They could not get the sacrament. So, everything shut down, obviously. So, we needed a way to contact them, and then I just offered to, get prayers compiled into a book form, and then it's up on the church website. Yeah, that's it.
Very good. Well, I mean, like I said, the sound is not ideal. It's not what I
Oh,
want it to be, but I am glad to see your lovely face. And for those that are
yeah, same
listening to
here.
the audio version of this podcast, I will put it up on my YouTube page as a video version as well,
Oh,
so you
great.
can see the person behind all the creativeness. I mean, I did find you on Twitter, and then I since then I found you on Amazon, and my goodness, you are prolific. You say you're a teacher, but you not
Yes, I
only
am.
teach your small class, but you teach the world through all the literature that you put out. When did you start
Oh,
writing
well,
books?
thank you.
That?
Very late, actually. I'm maybe just about 40 when I'm 40. I always wanted to write, but never had the time. Maybe after coming to UK, I've actually ventured into it whole lot. I mean, on a whole large scale, yeah.
So, Catherine Habbie, you
Yeah.
didn't grow up in the UK. You're from someplace else. Where are you from?
Oh, well, I'm from India, actually, and I've only moved to UK in 2016. So it was an official transfer for my husband, and then we just tagged along and just to see how it goes. And we've kind of stayed back for a while. Let's see how it works out.
So fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
growing up in India, was it a smaller town, or are there any small towns in India? Because from what I hear, there's a lot of people there, and it's
It's
wall
true.
to wall people. But what is it growing up in Italy, in India? How is that growing up for a
Um,
Catherine?
Okay, yes, India to everybody sounds like this mythical traditional place, but I'm basically a townie. I'm lived in Mumbai, which is the financial capital of the country, and it's really crowded and quite developed and modern, and it's just like the rest of the world. I don't find it very different from where I'm living now in London. So it's just a lot of people, and it's crowded, and yes, as you said, it's very crowded. But yeah, it's just like it's a global village. Everybody, it's like anywhere else. So I didn't find it very different. It's quite good actually. Yeah, my experiences have been nice. The
So
villages, yeah, they're different, and yeah, it's not as advanced as cities. But yeah, lucky for me, I've been in a part of the world which is like the rest of the global village. Yeah,
yeah, from what I'm understanding, you're a big city girl, Catherine. You go from one big city to another big city, from Mumbai,
that's
which
true.
is probably one of the few cities that I know about in India that I've heard of. I've seen it in movies, I've seen it in pictures, I've seen it in documentaries. I find that it is fascinating. It's a very hustle and bustle and very productive city. People say, "Wow, my goodness, look at that city! It's so wonderful, so environmentally, I mean, not was it engineer it's an engineering masterpiece. Some of the buildings that are there are just incredible to view, to see. But you left there and you went to another big town of London. I guess you're not a small town girl. They wouldn't classify you as a farm girl, or someone who lives in the small towns. You like cities, you like people. Is that
Um,
is that what I'm understanding?
well, I do feel more alive in cities, but right, I guess we would always love being in a countryside, the ideal vacation spot, and where probably would like to retire. But for now, yes, cities are where I live. Love to observe people, and yeah, these times are really unique and dystopian, and it's more interesting to watch more people around in these times and how they're dealing with it. And it's really interesting place to be now for writers, as you said. Um, Although we're stuck at home, I mean, we can watch on TV how people are, stuck with walking around with masks, stuck behind glass windows, and animals on the streets. And it's really a topsy-turvy world, and it's really wonderful for a writer to be in at this time. Yeah, I mean, considering all the illness around, I mean, in spite of all that, for a writer, it is really a once in a lifetime experience, I would say.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you can't write unless you have experiences, and that's one thing that you do. And you say that you started writing actual books later in life,
Yeah.
and that's what you have to do is you have to have some kind of experience before you can put it down pen to paper. Or I guess, well, do people use paper anymore? It seems like it's all on computer or using some kind of a scribe app, But I'm guessing in India, were you a teacher back then? All the way up until you left in 2016 and went to London, and you're still a
That's
teacher as well, right?
that's right. Yeah, I do teach in a local FE college. I was in a school in India before, and then now I teach in a local FE college.
What kind of schooling, what kind of teaching were you doing when you were living in India?
Well, I've taught all kinds of age groups. I started with the pre-primary section because I was initially a banker. I mean, after my children were born, I kind of moved on to teaching, which I always wanted to do, something to do with literature and English. So I've taught from all kinds of ages, from nursery to middle school. And right now I've moved on. I'm in colleges now.
Well, Catherine Habbie, so many stories you could tell. You've already made it known that you're a banker, you're a mother, you're a wife, you are a teacher, you're an author. There's so many different avenues that you can explore there. If you want to tell anybody, all the things that you've done, you could brag on yourself, because primarily I made this podcast so I could learn from people, and I'm learning from you, Catherine Habbie. I want to learn, what you know, and anything you care to disclose. I'm happy for it. And you say, and if you have any long stories, I'm here. I've got time. I'm locked down just like anybody else in this pandemic.
Well, I guess reading helps. I mean, I've always loved reading. I've always read as a child, and been telling stories to all my cousins even as I was growing up. And I think I've always been a storyteller inside. And reading helps in a way that, and eventually does come out. So my advice to everybody who is aspiring to be a writer: just keep reading everything you get.
Well, do you
Yeah.
remember some of the first stories that you were telling to your family, to your cousins in
Oh
particular?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, sure. They still remind me. They were about we had about a 5 to 10 year difference with each of them, and I was the oldest cousin, and I would be like in the middle of a dark night, when we went for vacations in summer in Kerala, there would be blackouts, pockets, and something like that. So it would be we'd be around a candlelight. I would be telling them stories of Sherlock Holmes and scary stuff, and they still remember. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I did tell them. Yeah,
So these are stories that you read. So Arthur Conan Doyle's
yeah,
stories of Sherlock
yeah,
Holmes. I'm currently
yeah.
watching with my family out there in the living room. We're watching the Sherlock Holmes series
Oh, what a coincidence!
with Cumberbatch, and he
Yeah,
is
yeah.
amazing. And my
Yes.
daughter, my 14-year-old daughter, has made mention that he would make a wonderful Doctor Who, because she is definitely a Whovian.
Oh,
We definitely like that. But the different incarnations of Sherlock Holmes in particular, I definitely appreciate those
yeah,
writings
yeah.
and those stories. Do you find yourself drawn to maybe mysteries, or maybe one man or one person that can solve everything and no one else can help? Or do you find? I mean, what kind of stories are you drawn to?
I have always loved Sherlock Holmes, and I've been addicted to it since my teens. I finished the whole series, that whole summer vacation that I've been reading at one go. It was amazing, and I've always loved it. I've watched almost versions of it shown on television, and my children are big fans too. So I think I've kind of passed it on. Besides detective novels, I like O. Henry is kind of my favorite. I like him, Roald Dahl. There are quite a few authors that I like, mostly British, unfortunately. So there's P.G. Woodhouse and the Agatha Christie series, the Poirot ones, they're good too. And I like quite a lot of classics actually. So Emily Bronte, The Wuthering Heights, and quite a few actually. I can't just name them all here. Yeah.
Well, I find myself consuming audiobooks. Whenever I say I read books, these
Mhm.
days I'm not actually reading books. I'm listening to them in my headphones while I'm driving, while I'm walking, while I'm exercising. I need to exercise more if you see me, But while I'm doing
You're fine.
several things, it's pretty easy to put some headphones on and learn something while I'm doing something else. Now, you
Mhm.
have what was your first work, and when was that? You say it was very recent. What kind of thing did you write about the first time?
Are you talking about audiobooks still?
Your books.
Um, you mean recently, or the first one that I've started with?
Yes, your first book that you wrote, that you actually wrote, because you're
Right.
an author, of course. For those that haven't figured it out, Catherine Habbie is an author as well as a teacher. So there's many avenues to explore. I mean, I definitely want to learn about all your authorship, because I'm looking, and I mean, I almost can't even count how many books you have here. There's at least how many books do you have out on Amazon?
Probably 16 or more. I've stopped counting now.
I mean,
Yeah.
for those that have thought about writing a book, I mean, what is okay, a standard interview question in 3, 2, 1. What is the process of writing a book, and how do you come up with your ideas? No, serious. In all seriousness, that sounds like a very standard question, but it is interesting to me. Someone who, okay, I'm 51 years old. I've had some kind of a life, but to put it to paper, to put it down into a novel form or book form, it seems so odd to me. I'm more of an audio person. I've been talking into microphones since 1986, at least,
Oh,
when I started on the radio, and I enjoy talking to people and finding out how they work, how they tick. What is your process for writing books, Catherine Habbie?
right. So even for you, I'm sure that at some point of time you would be planning out your activities for the next day on pen and paper. I'm sure you do that, a basic kind of planning, yeah. So what I did was always note down if I observe something around me that was unique or different, and maybe basically maintain a diary. And then at some point of time, when you really do have enough time, turn it into a book. Well, as I said before, my first book was about my adventures as a substitute teacher, like a supply teacher, as they call it in UK. So, kind of different experiences that I had, because for me, everything was different and unique. We never had this concept in India of a substitute teacher. And here, going to a new school every day was really difficult for me, because I couldn't find school from the first place, because yeah, I'm new to the country and the city, and my accent, the students found it difficult, and it was really humorous. If you look at it that way, it was funny, and I had to write it down. I had to make a note of it. And the best part is the vacations, when you could just kind of assimilate all the information you had, and then yeah, I guess that's when I started really writing it. Yeah, that's how I began.
Oh, I love it. That's just the drawing from your own experiences, the ability to take those experiences and form them into something that can be consumed either visually by reading or audioly. Now, when you get these books, have you made them into audio books?
Yes, most of my books are in audio format as well. I've had the wonderful Linda Fitak, who's been helping me. She's from US actually, and we've been contacting on the internet, each other on the internet, and she's been lending her voice to all my books, and she's amazing. And most of my children's books have even these background music which she adds, like Baby in the Garden is amazing with lovely sounds of birds chirping, and it's really lovely. I mean, you have to listen to it. And she does put a lot of effort into converting my books into audio form. So the baby series are all done by her. And initially, I've had them done by different authors for the different versions, different genres that I've had, like the trilogy. All three are by different authors. I mean, all different narrators. Yeah, the earlier ones, they're all by different narrators. Yeah, that's how it goes. I love Linda's work. So for all my baby series, her voice is perfect. So Audible has been really good to me. So most of my books are available there.
Well, Catherine, I do appreciate giving credit where credit is due. What was her name again?
She's Linda Fitak. So it's Fitak. Linda Fitak. Yeah.
The pronunciation of names.
Yeah, I couldn't get it.
Well, I do appreciate that.
Sorry.
As an MC at various events, whenever I see a name that just looks, wild to me, or maybe could be mispronounced, I make sure that I go to some family member or someone in the know. And how do you pronounce this? Oh, it's Smith. Smith.
Good idea.
Never Smith. It's always something like blah 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 blah. So you don't read the audio books yourself?
No, I wouldn't dare.
Well, I mean, I
No.
find that sometimes, the author has a different insight. When they when they write the book, they know themselves how to read that book. So it takes a certain special kind of person, such as Linda, and the last name still eludes me, but that's fine. Such as Linda to find your voice and put it into a character of sorts and read it out vocally. So you say that she's doing a very good job of that, of
Yeah.
conveying your ideas.
That's right. She's fabulous with my baby books. She gives so many sound effects. It was amazing. And with my first initial books, the triptych, for instance, I found it very difficult to convey what I wanted exactly, because a lot of it is the story. The trilogy is based in three different cities, two in India and then back in London. So the parts which involve India, the narrator was American, and he could not pronounce some of the words, and it was a lot of brainstorming to get where I wanted him to, be his pronunciation and convincing him that this is how I need it. It was tedious. So maybe I'll stick to Indian narrators for Indian stories, and general ones with British authors or narrators. I mean, I'm still working on it. Yeah, but for the baby books, yes, Linda was the best choice.
Well, I love having the technology that we have to where we can not only consume visually, because growing up, of course, I didn't have much audio books, so when I had to read and I had to put those stories and make the visuals in my mind. But now with audio, and you say that she's adding sound effects and different voices, and that helps you to make a picture in your own mind of what's being put to that paper. I think that's so great. It's just it adds that much more dimension to your stories. Now, okay, being a teacher, I'm guessing that you use some of your stories in your classes. This is just me projecting, but is that something that you do? And also for your children, your own children, what do they think of your writings? So you could take any part of those statements or that question and bring that out. Tell the people more. Expound.
Right. My children are my testing board actually for every new story. I have to narrate it to them at night and see how they react. They generally give me a lot of inputs and I work on it accordingly. At least the latest short stories, the fairy tales 2020, I've actually had them to give some inputs. Some of the stories which they wrote for local competitions, I try to incorporate them here. So it was for the BBC 500 words and more. So I've got a couple of stories from them as well in the book. So yeah, we're working on it together. And as far as work goes, I haven't told them yet that I write stories because I'm working in a college, and I really haven't divulged this part of my this aspect of my life to them yet.
Oh my goodness! In this day and age, anyone of any
I
kind
don't know. They haven't found out yet.
there has to be. If you're using your real name, they have to have looked you up online, at least found your Facebook page, your Instagram page, and
I
it's
guess
very
they don't
simple.
want to know more about their teacher. The last person they want to Google.
Are you kidding me? These kids today, and yeah, I just got older by saying that statement. These kids today, they know everything. They know much, much more. Everything is at their fingertips. And that little phone that they have, it's got the whole world. And from what I'm understanding is, I listened to a podcast with Elon Musk. I have no idea why I'm bringing this up, but he wants to take a chip and put it into your head, and he believes that everyone in the world can speak with the conscious, with the ideas of everyone. What do you think about the whole world coming together and sharing all these experiences? Right now it's on the phone, it's on the computer, but what do you think of people sharing their experiences? Do you think that's going to make the world a better place? People understanding each other, or do you think there's going to be more conflict because people will understand each other?
Well, it's really interesting. Elon Musk, is intriguing as a person. I mean, I'm amazed by what he called his child. I mean, that's an unusual name for a child to be called. Um, a chip in your head. Well, if it helps with understanding different languages and instantly communicating with people, I think it's excellent. I mean, you know what happened to the Tower of Babel. I mean, you know what happens when people don't know what they're talking about. But I wouldn't recommend it as sharing of ideas and putting ideas in people's heads. That's like mind control, isn't it? I wouldn't appreciate somebody telling me what to think. I have the internet for that to see what people do and what's happening around, but not in my head. Definitely no. This place is secret.
Well, I think the original idea of the chip is to help with people with spinal problems, paraplegics and quadriplegics.
Mm-hmm.
The initial research and the initial function of these chips that are being implanted are to help people walk and help
Mm-hmm.
people talk. And he
Mm-hmm.
says, at least my understanding of it, he says that originally these are going to help people walk and talk and use their limbs better, and they probably eventually will be able to use their limbs even better. But the secondary idea is to actually implant the ideas of the world, have the Google in your head. I don't know why I was just thinking about this, but I figured, hey, I'm bouncing ideas off of Catherine Habbie, and she's an idea person. She takes the experiences, the ideas in her head, and she puts them to paper. Is it even paper anymore, or is it all computer?
For me, it's not paper anymore. I do scribble stuff if I don't find, I'm not having access to my, but most of the time it's on my phone. I use these sticky notes on the phone and I note it down, and I transfer it to the laptop whenever I have time. Yeah.
So
Well, paper, yeah, paper is lost. Yeah,
are there apps on the
unfortunately.
phone? Are there apps on the phone that help you formulate your ideas? Do you come up with the different chapters first and then do the bodies of those chapters? Writing a book, it's really fascinating to me. I don't get to talk to a lot of authors. I think I've had a few on this podcast before, and they have different ideas of how to put things down, their ideas, and formulate them. Do you brainstorm and just go writing, or is it very structured subject by subject on what you want to write?
Well, as I said before, I assimilate the ideas as I get them, and then I really need a lot of time, peace, and quiet. And then when I begin, I don't stop. I mean, I can just write it at a stretch. So I cannot do this regular 1 hour a day kind of writing and then, get a book at the end of so many days. There has to be a muse working, there has to be an idea, and then it will just set me off, and then I can finish it off at a stretch. So yeah, it has to be a spark of an idea and not very structured in the beginning. I mean, it just works and then flows. So yeah, I alter it later. I mean, I'll just complete the whole story and then go back to it and then make changes. Yeah.
Well, Catherine, as a wife, mother, and a teacher, where do you find the time in the day? And do you have a corner of your house that you could tell everybody, leave me alone for an hour, for 2 hours, or however long you've allotted? Leave me alone. Mama's working, wifey's working, teacher's working. Do you have a spot that you can be alone, or do you have to go outside of the house to find that spot?
Luckily for me, this is my spot. Luckily for me, we've all been working in lockdown, especially. We've all been in our 4 different corners getting our work done. And I've not been able to write kind of things I want now because the house is so noisy with everybody around. But I generally do that in the vacations, as I said, when we're not working, and then I find the time and the inclination to really start with something more creative. These are just mechanical stuff, the random books that have been written for, like prayers and baby books, they just come out. But like something creative like the triptych, it needs time, and I haven't really done it in a long time. So I need peace and quiet for that.
Well, Miss
This is
Catherine.
not enough. Lockdown is not enough.
I mean, well, Miss Catherine, the world needs more people like you that can put things down. The people that, I mean, is it always fiction, or is there anything factual in these stories? I haven't had the pleasure of reading anything or even listening to the audios. After I get off of this podcast, I'm going to be looking for the audio versions of them and putting them into my audio book app, so I can listen to the voice of Linda reading the books of Catherine Habbie, for sure. I mean, are there subjects that are historical or real life, or is it always fictional?
All right. So in the Triptych trilogy, for instance, I've picked up a lot of historical characters like Pocahontas. she did come to Britain, and she kind of she was the earliest Indian immigrant here, so red American Indian, of course, and then how she adjusted to her life here. And I kind of made it like kind of combined it with the story of Henry VIII and a few monks that were here around at that time. And there's a curse of the Henry VIII. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. The one in which his coffin was supposed to explode after his death, and the dogs licking his blood, and it is gory. But it was a curse, and it came out to be true. It actually exploded. His coffin exploded, and all these things came to happen. And there's this house where Pocahontas lived, and the funeral procession was said to have passed from there. So I kind of used all these elements when I did visit that house. It is a beautiful historical monument where I live, near, quite close to the place I live. And I kind of incorporated that into my story. Now, you asked me if any of these characters in the book are real, based on real people. So besides the historical characters, humans in that, I've used some characters which are based on the people I know around me, and they're quite surprised to find themselves there. It's not entirely true. None of this is true. And the story is based on kind of a mythical object which is not real. Um, and the people are definitely real. The characteristics of the people, I've kind of absorbed that, and my characters are based on real humans. It's not a real story, though. Yeah.
So you're saying some of the people in these stories that you've based on real characters have read these books, have listened to these books, and have noticed themselves in these books. Is that something
Yeah.
that's happened?
It has actually. My dad found himself in one of the books, and he's like, I have not done any of these things. It's embarrassing at times because I really wish they wouldn't recognize themselves. But you generally draw on characters and people you know, and you can't just create them unless you're really great. I really draw on people I see around me. So yes, if, as they say, if you're not good to a writer, they'll murder you, finish you off in a book. So you better be good to the writer.
You've
So
immortalized them. You've taken these people and you've put them out into the world, and they'll be immortalized forever and ever, as long as books or any kind of media is still around. I'd be excited to be fictionalized in a book, even if it's not entirely true, but just the broad strokes are true.
yeah,
At least you
yeah,
have that portion. And your dad, he had to be happy or at least honored to be a part of your stories. I mean, was it all bad, or did he appreciate it?
I was surprised he would recognize himself there. Actually, I really didn't think he would. He did get around to it. It's fine. He just had to constantly explain that that's not me. That's not. So yeah, it's kind of flattering when people recognize themselves. But at the same time, it's scary. It kind of holds you down. You're not very adventurous the next time. You have to be careful to cover it in layers so nobody recognizes themselves.
Oh my goodness, I wouldn't want that to subdue your writing, to uh, uh, to chain you creatively. You have to take the experiences, and of course your parents, you're going to know them better than almost anyone else in the whole wide world. Your first experiences are with your family, your immediate family, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, who you were telling stories to, that you've alluded to, that you told stories of Sherlock Holmes and Henry VIII and the like. But those are the people that are with you the most. So of course you're going to draw upon those people. Have you written stories about your husband or your own children?
Well, as I said, the fairy tales book which I started writing was basically for the family. It was never meant to be a book, and I kind of used all my family members into the stories, and some was based on them and how they would feel. I mean, it was basically for them, but it was not about them. So kind of use their names in all the stories, and so that they would be delighted when they read it, And I kind of gifted it to them every Christmas, one new story for each child, a new child that was born in the family, and hopefully, yeah, they've enjoyed it. Yeah,
That is amazing. It's a gift that you have to to put all
Thank you.
these ideas down. You have so many books out there on Amazon. I encourage people to go look up Catherine Habbie, Habbie, on Amazon. And I found your Facebook page and your Instagram, and I'm certainly going to follow follow you on social media and the
Oh,
like.
thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. So what kind of response? I know on your Instagram, you've put out a little bit of the response that you've had from your books, the sales and such. But what is the response from people? Is it generally uh, good, or is there some criticism to it? I mean, besides your dad, who was so upset about being found out
He
about
wasn't
finding
upset.
Dad, I say, Dad, it was wonderful. You were immortal. You'll be living forever and ever in the stories that Catherine is telling. But I mean,
That's so
what's the
beautifully said.
what's the response when you say, "Hey, I'm an author," and then people actually read or listen to your books? What are people saying about it?
Um, well, I've got quite a few reviews put up against the books in Goodreads, and I can see that on Amazon reviews. But very people are reluctant to give a point of view. I mean, opinions. They don't want it put in public. I mean, they may speak to me and they say they're impressed, they love it, they're proud of me, and um, I have been giving out free books to everybody, as many as I'm ready to give giveaways. People read them, but very few actually put them up on social media. So I'm really looking forward to more reviews. I would love to have people review my books, and I'm ready to give away free copies to whoever would message me. And I would really want reviews, more reviews. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to encourage everyone that's listening to the sound of my voice and the sound of Catherine Habbie's voice right now on this podcast. Once you get off, to head over and find out even more about it. I know that the audio hasn't been perfect here, but I think we got the idea of who you are and at least a little bit of knowledge. And I encourage you, as time progresses, if you have more books that you'd like to promote, to tell people about, to come back and
Oh,
and join me once again on the What Makes You Famous podcast, or any other incarnation of media or show that comes up in the future. I might be in hologram form in the next year or so.
wow.
Who knows how we're going to be consuming media? That's innovation. I enjoy innovation. I like the fact that yes, you, Catherine Habbie, have taught me even a new form of media, the Zoom meeting.
Oh,
So we're recording this on Zoom. I'm very excited. See, you're teaching people. You were born a teacher. You're
yes, I
made.
am.
So I appreciate that. Are there any other avenues that you'd like to explore, or anything else you want to tell the people?
Um, Remote learning has been really challenging as a teacher for me to create different, platforms to interact with my students. Zoom has been really great. That's how I know about it. And we've been using Kahoot, which is a lovely quiz game. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. So those are the kind of platforms where remote learning. Lockdown has helped immensely, because we're looking at more and more ways technology can reach students within their homes. And yeah, I'm kind of planning something in the same line for my books as well. I mean, something in the summer when I have more time. So yeah, hopefully I'll use more technology for my books in the future.
Well, how are the people of London being on this lockdown time? Is everyone wearing, or are there most people wearing masks and gloves and only going out for certain things, or is it pretty much business as usual, or are things opening up as we talk about this in May of 2020?
Right. Even as we speak, there was an announcement by the Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and by June 1st, which is in a few days' time, lockdown is going to be lifted in slight measures. So we got groups of 6 people can gather around now from June, and the shops will be open as well. It was only essential items up to now, and people could still step out, but just for regular exercise and essential shopping, but they couldn't meet in public places, even if they're from the same family. Unless they're from the same household, you could not meet a family member, like say grandparents and relatives. You could just meet them in a public space at a distance of 2 meters. And it was not very strict, but it was mostly a moral conduct that people took it upon themselves to follow. Like if you noticed the news recently, they even had a member of the parliament in trouble because he's kind of broken the lockdown rules. There is no official, there are slight fines, but there's no serious, it's not considered a crime. Moreover, it's just a moral thing that people are following. So lockdown is a personal thing and people are doing it for safety. Yeah.
Well, I will take it from Boris Johnson. I know that he has firsthand knowledge. He actually had the
Yeah, he
COVID.
does.
And yes, I did read. I don't remember the name of the one of his parliament members, but that person was exposed to the coronavirus, and he took it upon himself to go and visit with his family. And Boris
Yeah.
Johnson said, "Hey, he did what any dad, any husband would do. He went off and he fed, and he went to his family. I don't think,
Yeah.
and I
It
think
was Dominic Cummings, I believe, and it's still debatable. And I know lots of people are, on both sides of the fence. We really don't know because it's not fair that others don't get to meet their near and dear ones, and he's just let off because he's an important person. So it's still in debate.
Well, I show my vigilance, as we're breaking out of this coronavirus. I'm a DJ on the weekends. I get to go do karaoke and video dance parties and weddings and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
actually tomorrow night, Friday night, will be the first time in months that I'm going to my local pub here, the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, and doing a video dance party karaoke show. And a
Oh,
lot of people are very excited. And yes, I have my wipes and my sanitary spray, so I will do my due vigilance and spray down equipment between uses, the microphones and such. So yes, I don't wear a mask. I don't wear gloves generally, but if your establishment asks me to, I will wear a mask. No problem. I'm happy to do it, if it makes you feel better. But, I hope that we make it out of this very, very soon. And as a
yeah.
teacher, you're finding new and creative ways to teach. And that's a wonderful thing. And finding new ways and new experience, through these experiences, man, I figure within the next year, we're going to have so many coronavirus stories, how I survived, how I went through, many personal stories and maybe stories of families. I hope that that isn't the only thing that gets talked about, because I know that there's got to be other things going on in the world. But I know that I'm going to see a lot of coronavirus,
That's
whatever
true.
creativeness, content
Yeah, in fact,
out there.
yeah. In fact, I did write a poem about that, baby and corona. Well, that's the point of view of a baby in these times. And I put that poem up. There's a link on my Twitter account to it. It's on Poem Hunter, the poem, and you could just have a look at it. And I did try to make it into a book, but Amazon says there's so many books on corona right now, they're not accepting it. As you said, there's going to be a flood of books on the topic, and they don't at the moment they don't want to kind of publish books on the topic because people might take it as a guideline or a benchmark and follow it, because right now nobody knows what's the right way to go about. So yeah, but in the future, yes, there's going to be a flood, a deluge of corona topics. Yeah, COVID, corona. Yeah.
And not to mention the COVID children. There's going to be
Oh yeah, I heard that one too.
in a mere few months, there will be
Yeah,
so many corona babies, and
yeah,
possibly
yeah,
named corona.
exactly.
All right. Well, I mean, I appreciate you chit-chatting with me on this fine Thursday, as we round this thing out. Let the people know once again how to get a hold of you, Catherine Habbie. How would you like to connect with your people, Catherine Habbie?
Right. So all my books are available on Amazon, but if you do want to request me for a copy, you can come to my author page on Facebook. I'm available on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I usually like to finish these things off with last words for the people, and I'm going to give it to you, Catherine Habbie. These could be words that you live by, people, something very profound that you heard that you keep in your mind, or whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Catherine Habbie, last words for the people.
Well, dream big. So all I can say, I have always loved reading, but I never visualized this kind of a future for me. And yeah, all you have to do is dream big, I guess.
Well, there you have it, party people. Catherine Habbie. Oh, I knew it was going to be good. I'm sorry about the audio. It wasn't perfect. You know, it's a connection problem. My goodness, she's all the way over there in the UK, London, England, in the big city. But I guess the internet wasn't perfect and the sound wasn't perfect, but I'll fix it up as best I could. And if you're listening to the audio portion of this podcast, it's going to sound a little bit better because I've run it through my Adobe Audition. But if you are just listening to the audio version, I encourage you to check out my YouTube, radiowhat.com, Keys Dan, and find the video version. You could see the lovely Catherine Habbie herself in her little space where she does most of her creating, her book writing. So I encourage you to find Catherine Habbie on all of her social platforms, and especially Amazon, and maybe you can consume some of her works and in book form or Kindle form or in audio form. She's got it all out there. So thank you so much, Catherine Habbie, for being on the program. What Makes You Famous? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you so much for listening, you the listener. Now, I'm talking to you, the listener. If you'd like to tell your story, yes, you. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call at 501-470-6386 or email info@radiowhat.com. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.